our stock X-maxx and our stock X-maxx body that we're going to be changing out for a nicely painted up Traxxas Pro Graphics body. Let's take this one off. Let's see. So it's part number 7711X. The X for Traxxas normally indicates an upgraded part. So on the 8S truck, a lot of things like diffs are marked with an X sometimes, or parts of the chassis that are different from the 8S to the 6S. So we'll get this one unwrapped. Okay, so this body comes as a clear body with, as you can see, a pre-inlaid graphic set on the body, hence the reason it's called the Pro Graphics bodies. I quite like this body and the way that Traxxas do these for other cars, because it means that you can get a very nice professional looking body relatively easily. So this is going to be painted up using green. It's going to be sort of a candy apple green, and it's also going to have what's called lime flake sprayed in it, which will give it a metal flake finish. It's then going to be backed with silver just to bring out the colour a little bit, and then once it's done it will be fully reinforced. Now the first step with this is going to be to fully clean and wash out the inside to get rid of the releasing agent that you get from lexan bodies when they're made. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then make sure it's fully dry before you do any painting at all. Now also on the outside there's a clear plastic film. Now that clear plastic film stops any overspray going on top of the body. It's important not to remove that until you've finished painting, but it's also important to remember that it's there, because it's quite easy. You got these stickers on the top, but if it wasn't for them you almost wouldn't know there was a film on that. And I have actually had a friend who decided to put his stickers on top of the film, which didn't go very well. So just set that on the body. Obviously as well they come with no roll cage fitted, so we'll be taking the roll cage out of the stock one and putting in this. Now it comes with some stickers. Now this is the disappointing bit. So this is a brand new body out of the box, and look at the state. I don't know if you can see how creased up and marked all these decals are. They were screwed up inside the inside of the shell. Personally, I think, considering that this is nearly a £90 body, so about $120, that's completely unacceptable. So I've emailed them and asked for a second set to be sent, hopefully flat. And we've also got, as you can see, just some advertisement stickers and a few stickers for details and things. And it's nice because it indicates where they need to go. So I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to go and get the body prepped for painting, and then right, okay then. So washing it down, use warm soapy water with some washing up liquid. This is what I find works quite well. When I use a sponge, it's got a rough side and a smooth side. I do use the rough side as well, just for keying into it a little bit. It does help the paint adhere quite well. One thing that is advisable is if you're keeping your windows clear, which is not important on this one because they've got graphics over them, they will be getting stickers on, but if you were planning on keeping them clear, you'd avoid using the rough part on your windows, because you wouldn't want to see any scratching and things like that afterwards, especially if you were going to use a tint, like a nice smoke colour, to tint your windows as well. You wouldn't want that to be affected. Right, so I'm just making sure I'm getting in all the nooks and crannies with this warm soapy water. And like I say, it just releases, just gets off that releasing agent that you get. If you don't do this, your paint will peel and it will flake when you start to get impacts and flecks. And you'd be surprised if you were to see slow motion videos of when your cars crash. I think you'd be a bit surprised at just how much these things actually flex. Right, so that's essentially that done. So now it's okay, so we'll give it a rinse off, then you need to make sure once it's rinsed off that it is fully dry. So I normally leave mine to sit and dry and drain for a couple of hours, and then I'll just lightly go over them with a hairdryer to ensure that I've got all the water out of the nooks and crannies and that they're dry. Just be aware of when you are using something like a hairdryer that you don't put too much heat onto the lexan and misshapen it. Right, there we are, we're just making sure that really we're getting all of that soap off. Now it's important as well now when you do start painting that in between this stage and painting you don't put greasy fingers on it. And it's quite easy to do and you can end up ruining your paint finish. Okay, so this case now, just waiting for that to dry. Okay, so it's onto the actual painting side of the body now. So the fun bit, we've done all the prep work. Obviously with a body like a Pro Graphics body, there's very little prep work compared to a clear one. Okay, so your paints, give them a good shake up. Now I use predominantly Tamiya sprays because that's my preferred paint. The first thing I'm doing is lame flake. This is going to give it the nice metal flake finish to the paint because we're using a non-metallic paint. Okay, so your little test spray, check it's coming out okay, and then you're going to want to be about 30-35 centimeters away and just nice smooth movement. Start spraying before you get to where you want to get to and then let go when you get past. Don't put the can over where you want to spray and then press spray because you'll get a build up in that area. Okay. And just nice, smooth, fluid movements. It's important not to overspray because you'll get a bit of a build up. Now with this particular colour, effect, the lame flake, it's very hard to see where you've been painting. So as a result, don't get carried away and think that you've not covered it enough, because you probably have. It's just the fact that you can't see it quite as well. Okay, so I think that's about that there now. Obviously as well, when you're spraying, it's important to wear a mask, be in a well ventilated area. I'm just at the front of my garage here because the weather in this part of the world never seems to be good enough to paint when I want to. Okay, so this is going to be extremely difficult to see on camera, but I'll see if you can. Probably can't see any difference, hardly at all. It's only in certain lights that you'll pick up the flake until we put the colour behind it, and then you'll see the sparkle. And when we then reveal the paint job, when we take the film off the top, then you'll notice a massive difference. So I'm just going to go ahead now. I'm going to wait for this to dry, and I'm going to go ahead and start putting the first base colour on, which is green. Okay, so that's now the lame flake that we've done dry, so we're now ready to base coat. Something that I forgot to mention after we finished spraying the other one is when you've actually finished with your can and you're not going to be doing any more spraying, if you hold it upside down and spray it for a couple of seconds, it removes paint from the nozzle, and therefore when you put it away, next time you come to use it, it's more likely to be free to use rather than sponged up. Right, so I'm now going to use the same technique. I'm just going to go ahead and lay colour in. Oh, no. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and lay the colours in now. So we're going with green, and it's the same technique we used before. Just light coats. Trying to make sure that we're getting all the areas that are hard to get to. So I normally find it's easier to hold the body because it makes it a lot more dynamic for you to move it around to shoot the paint in the right place. And don't be worried too much about the coverage first time round. You know, we're going to be probably doing 3 coats of this, so it's a much better idea to build up your thin layers than what it is to just try and go for an instant coverage. You go for an instant coverage, it's going to run, it's going to be too thick, it's not going to dry properly, and you're going to get problems. And at the end of the day, it's not cheap to do any of this, and it's extremely time consuming, and you'd rather just get it right and do it once than be doing it multiple times. Okay, so that's the first layer started to build up now. You can see the colour coming through. It's probably still hard to see on the camera, and when it's done I'll take it outside and you'll be able to see that flake that I've put in it, which by doing that we've now given a nice flaky finish, nice metallic finish to a colour that actually isn't a metallic colour. This body is actually for somebody else, it's not for myself. I would usually use mostly metallic colours because I like the finish of them, but this does just give me an opportunity to show you guys that actually you don't have to use a metallic paint to get a nice metallic finish. Right, okay, I'm going to leave that there now and just let that dry, and then I'm going to come back to it and I'll go through some more as I do the second layer. Layer number 1 is dry. You can see it's got a slightly matte texture inside now that it's dry. So I'm just going to lay down the second coat. And on the second coat here now, I'm just looking mainly to start highlighting any bits that are obvious that I've missed that might be hard to get to. It's going to be extremely hard to see on the camera, I imagine, but when you hold it up to the light, it does become quite obvious when you've missed bits. And it's important because afterwards, when we lay down silver that we're going to be doing on top of this, if there's much that we've missed, blank spots and places like that, it's going to be really obvious because you're going to get the silver coming through. Now we want the silver to give the body a nice additional shine on top of the lame flake that we've used. However, we don't, you know, we don't want to actually see silver coming through. We just want it to give that base colour. Because you paint bodies the opposite way round, lexan bodies, to what you would a real car or anything else. So most cars you would put the primer first. Well, effectively with a lexan body you're putting the primer down afterwards. So for instance, if we were painting light and dark colours, the first colour you're going to want to be painting is actually your dark colour and putting lights on top. Now if we were to lay down, say for instance we were to lay this green down and then we want to paint black and we put black down afterwards, the black would come through the green and it would darken it, a bit like where you've got these ghosted areas here which are actually created on purpose to give it the effect, to give it that that look of a styled paint job, but you would get that in areas where you don't actually want it. So it's important to know that your what colours you're going to use and in what order you're going to put them down in, and why, and the fact that it is for a good reason. So sometimes, I mean, it can be quite irritating because sometimes you might just be putting a tiny bit of black, but you've got to mask off a large part of the body just to get that segment done correctly in black. But it is worth it afterwards. I've seen a lot of people that they rush their bodies and, or they start to make a mistake, and then once they make a mistake they just think, oh sod it, I'll call this my basher body. But you've got to think, you know, that basher body then is extremely expensive, and who says when you buy another one you're not going to make the mistake again? And there is also ways of correcting mistakes sometimes. So overspray and stuff, it's not impossible to get rid of overspray. It's not ideal, but it's not impossible to get rid of it. So that's now the second layer of green, and to be honest that probably is going to be good enough. I'm going to go ahead now and let it dry, and then we'll have a look. If that's good enough, I'll start laying the silver down. So that's our second layer fully dry now. Now, it looks 99% there, but there's an odd place that I'm going to pick up on. I've still got paint left in the tin, so I may as well utilise it. And that way I can make sure that it is covered correctly. Especially on these bigger areas and the hard to reach spots. So these spots in here are quite hard to get. They're quite hard to jet from the inside with the paint. And the problem is, if you put too much on to try and get it in there, you risk getting some runs. No one likes the runs. So again, and a good tip is, it's hard to see in here. If you hold up to the light, you can see if you've got any spots that you haven't reached properly. So I mean, that now, 100%. That's nicely covered and jetted. So it's looking fairly green. Most importantly, from the outside, that is looking like a fully painted body. So I'm going to go ahead now, let this dry. Once this is dry, I'm going to go ahead and put some silver inside, and it's just going to change the tone of the green very slightly. Again, it's going to be hard to notice on camera, but once I peel off the outside, this will go from being a flat green to having a nice fleck in it. Also, you can see there's a large amount of overspray that's gone on the outside of the body. So because we've got that film on there, that protects it. Years ago, before this film, they used to come with nothing, and you had to mask up the outside, and that meant we couldn't see what we were painting whilst we were painting it. So again, one of the advantages of modern technology. Right, I'm going to go ahead now, I'm going to dry this, and then we'll jet some silver. Okay, so that is our green now, fully done. It's dry, it's cured, it's nice and hard. I've double checked it under the light, I haven't missed any spots, so now I'm going to add PS12, which is silver, and it's just their standard Tamiya standard silver, just to back the body with. This isn't going to be a full covering or particularly thick, it's just going to be a light dusting in places. So again, I'm using similar technique, and I'm just looking to give it all a nice big dusting. Now this normally I can do in a single coat, which I'm hoping will be the case this time. If I was doing this as actual silver and I wanted the silver to be shown, then I'd probably do, again, at least 2, maybe 3, and I'd be looking to back it in particular colours as well. But because of the nature of why the silver's being put on, and it's not being used to make silver lines, it's just being used to bring the green out, I don't need to worry too much. Okay, that seems to be there. Excellent. Right, as I said, just a light dusting. It's going to be very, very hard to see on camera what that has done, but for me in person now, it's brought out the metal flake, which you'll see a lot more when I take this wrapping off and I get it in the sun. If we get any sun here anytime soon, I shall take some nice pictures of it in the sun, and you can see what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry now, and then I'll look at peeling the outside of the thing off, and then you can have a look, get the protective film off, and you can have a look properly and see how it's come out. Okay, so here we have the completed paint for the body. It's all dry now, so the silver that we sprayed on last is dry. So the only thing left to do now, as far as stock painting is concerned, is to peel the protective film off from the outside of the body. As you can see, it looks like a matte finish at the minute. Now as we peel this off, you'll see the nice gloss finish. Peel that back. There. Make sure that we don't miss any little bits. This film will become slightly brittle because we've painted over it, paint spray and things. I don't know why, it just seems to make it brittle. If you ever pull these off for any reason before you paint, which obviously isn't advisable, they seem to be a lot more pliable. Truck bed, the back of the truck. See, starting to get that nice shine. One bit on this side. Off there. That's, yep. That's all of it. Okay. So hopefully you can see on camera there now, that's a lot glossier, a lot shinier than what it was. What still might be hard to see, I think you can just about see it there, is the sparkle. So that's now caused by the lane flake that we used. It's extremely hard to see initially, but you can see it there sort of glistening away, and this is just in man-made light. In natural light, that's a lot more reflective and a lot more sparkly, as you can see. Also, I know this is hard to see and you're kind of taking my word for this, but by using that silver underneath, it's given this green a more metallic look. If we'd have backed this with white, this would have been a lot flatter. So that's something to bear in mind. Even though we've used a non-metallic paint, you can see we've got a nice sparkle as if it's metallic. We've got a nice gradation in the colour due to the Pro Graphics body. I'll go ahead now, stick that on. Obviously we've fitted no roll cage at the minute, so this is just simply a loose fit to give you an idea of what we're looking at here. So no stickers on it yet. I'm going to do the stickers later on, but I think you can see that gives the truck what is a completely different look from stock already. There's a lot more going to be done to this vehicle to make it look, you know, completely unique. This is going to be a one-off vehicle, but as present, it's completely stock, just with this body on it, and that instantly makes it look different. Okay, so that concludes the basic painting tutorial. Stay tuned, because the next thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to reinforce it using shoe glue and drywall tape, and I'm going to do a full tutorial on that. I know I've done a video before talking about what I do and how to do it. However, this time I'm actually going to do a step-by-step guide of me actually reinforcing this body so that you can see exactly how I do it. So that should hopefully answer all the questions on that and hopefully provide help for you guys in the future. Right, hopefully you've liked that. Hopefully it's been helpful to you. If so, subscribe, hit the bell button, and you'll stay notified for all my future tutorials and future running videos.